It's like I never even left, guys. What is going on? It's another video, still the same night. We're going to be mounting up tires onto our BST Carbon Fiber wheels for the Ninja H2 SX. So before we get started, some things you got to know and things you got to understand. Carbon fiber, pound for pound, is stronger than steel. It's been proven. But steel will bend, and if you work carbon fiber in a way that it was not meant to be worked, it can become very brittle. So there are a few precautions that we need to go over when mounting tires onto carbon fiber wheels. Alright, so things we're going to be using in this video, obviously the wheels themselves. Lots of lube. Lots of lube. Makes your life easy. And tires. Now, what I recommend... Oh, before tires, we need some rim protectors. Rim protectors there. See how much they protected that rim. But rim protectors and a tire. Now I went with a set of Michelin Pilot Power 5s. I went with Michelin's because Michelin is one of the softest, most pliable tires I've seen out there on the market. And in my opinion, I think you should have the softest, stretchiest tire to mount onto these wheels because they're so much easier to get onto the wheel and to manipulate the tire. And just the stiffer the sidewall on a tire, the more nervous it makes me when you're mounting it onto something that's, let's call it, more brittle than an OEM wheel. But yeah, you just want to make sure that you have something that is nice, soft, squishy, easy to mount, easy to dismount, because not only do we want it to be easy to go on, but when we burn through the tire, we also want to make sure that it's easy to come back off of the wheel. Because we don't want to put any pressure, any stress on the wheel when we're mounting it. So yeah, nice soft tire, rim protectors, plenty of lube. Let's head over to the tire machine and actually set the machine up properly and then put our wheel on the machine. So I highly recommend, if you're going to get these mounted, you go to a shop that knows how to mount carbon fiber wheels. One of the very first things you want to do is you want to ask them if they've dialed back the pressure, the input pressure on their machine. Brock's recommends about 45 to 50 pounds. So I have my regulator set to right about 50 pounds. So that way when these jaws clamp down onto the rim, they're not putting 100 psi basically of air pressure against the wheel. So that right there is one of the differences between an OEM wheel and a carbon fiber wheel. When you're clamping it down, you want to make sure that you're not going overboard on clamping force. Alright, so our pressure's set. Now we want to put our rim protectors on. Now these are used primarily on dirt bikes to protect the wheels when you're prying the tires off of dirt bikes, but they have multi-uses, and all they are is just pieces of plastic, and I put them in the four corners where they're going to be clamped on by the tire machine. Now again, this is something that you would never have to do on your regular OEM wheel, but it's something that Brock's Performance highly recommended that you do. And it's just another layer of protection so you're not putting that force on that outer lip, which would be kind of a weaker spot on the wheel. So all you're doing is just giving yourself some extra protection there. Just again, set it up in the four spots where it makes contact with the machine. Just like so. And then we're just going to clamp onto the wheel, and sorry if my air compressor kicks on. Alright, so I clamped on it. I didn't hear any cracks or pops, so that's good. Our pressure's set nicely. Just going to double check it. Yep, we're still right about 48 so psi of pressure. Every BST wheel is going to be labeled with a directional arrow, and that is the way that the wheel needs to rotate. It's because of the way they have this woven, the design, that is the way the wheel has to spin in order to give you the most strength from what I understand. Now on my H2 being the rear wheel here, this isn't as big of a deal because it's only going to get installed on the bike one way. But when you're doing the front wheel, it's definitely something you want to pay attention to and make sure that they have the direction going the correct way. So this looks good. This is also nice too for when we install the tire. It's a quick, easy reference. You know, I know which way to put the tire on and which direction it should be spinning. So check this, make sure that it's going the correct way. And when you install it, make sure you install it with that arrow in the direction of rotation. Now before we mount the tire onto the wheel, we want to actually set up our tire machine properly. All right, I have it set up just like so. Notice how the arm is not making contact with the wheel at all. The goal here is that this arm is going to be doing all the work when putting the tire onto the rim. So you want to give yourself about 1/4 of an inch the whole way around the rim there when we're installing our tire. So now that we have the arm set up, all we have to do is swing that out of the way. This is where the tire lube comes in handy. Now I'm using Nomar tire lube. Any tire lube will work. Just don't want to use things like oils or harsh detergents. I've heard of people using Spray 9, or what else is another popular one I've heard? Purple Power. I've heard of people using those types of chemical soaps, detergents to mount tires, and I wouldn't, because again, that stuff could eventually have a negative effect on the glues that hold the wheels together. So I would stick with, you know, maybe dish soap, or just go out and spend, I think this jar was no more than $20 for this jar of lube. So it wasn't that bad. But just make it nice and slippery. Oh yeah. If anybody would like to donate a brush to the cause, I'll take one. That's one thing I forgot to order, was a brush. So Michelin's, for whatever reason, I've never seen a balance mark on a Michelin tire. Apparently they just make these things so that they're equal weight the whole way around. They don't have a light spot or a heavy spot. So yeah, Michelin's are, I would say at this point, line up your valve stem with the dot on the tire, but you don't have to do that here. Just bring your tire machine over here and use the tire machine to install the tire. You know, your thing is, you don't want to be so aggressive and push down on this tire to get it on there. You want the tire machine to do the work. There we go. And then what I'm doing is, again, I'm using the tire machine, letting the tire machine do the work. First, I'm just going to slide this tire on as far as I can. All the force is being put on the arm. It's not being put onto the wheel. Then I want to suck this down past the bead into the center of the wheel where there's a nice void. So that way when I do turn the tire machine on, it's not putting extra stress on there, and it's just guiding the wheel on. Okay, I get to suck it down in. and let the machine do the work. That last little bit, there we go. Perfect. So get that out of the way, we'll inspect our wheel. Everything looks good, no chips, no dings. Again, that was set away from the wheel. And the wheel just kind of, tire just fell onto the wheel because of that. Now that we have that on, we can now take our rim protectors off here. Alright, now when we put air in, you want a tire inflator that actually locks onto the Schrader valve, and then we're just going to give it short little bursts. Now since we have a bunch of tire lube on there, it shouldn't take much to seat this over the bead. I think we might have to find a higher source of air pressure for that. Let's see what we have in there so far. I think for putting air in a tire, you're safe to jack the pressure up just a little bit because it seems to be giving some issue. Alright, so there it is, tire mounted. And then as a double check verification, you just want to look for the directional arrow, make sure everything's going in the proper direction, which everything looks good here. Now the next step would be to balance the wheel, but I don't have anything to balance this wheel, and quite honestly I'm just going to run with this one here and see how it feels. I do have the proper equipment at my work, so again it's 5 bolts. Just have to unbolt it, throw it on our balancer at work just to verify that it's balanced. But I am going to balance the front wheel because I do have the ability to do that. I just don't have the ability to do the rear, and a lot of times even if it's a little bit out, you're not going to feel that on the rear of the bike. That's not to say you shouldn't get these balanced. I am going to balance this one. It's just not going to be in this video. That's installed. That's how you mount these up. Again, there are precautions to take, but as long as you take those precautions, it should go smoothly. So I'm just going to mount the front tire now, and then we're going to pop these things on the bike and see what they look like. Alright, so what this is a motorcycle chewing stand. Basically this is what you use to set up a spoked wheel and make sure it's not out of round and it doesn't have hops to it. But another use for it is as a motorcycle wheel balancer, as you see here. So all I have to do is very simple. I just take the wheel and I rotate it a quarter turn and then I let it go. And if the wheel falls like it's doing right now, that means wherever it lands when it stops spinning, that is the heaviest spot on the wheel / tire combination. So I rotated it down. I'm going to rotate it up a quarter turn, and we're going to see if it falls at about roughly the same spot. And if it does, then we'll know that is the heaviest spot on the wheel. And what I do is I just look at how it's actually falling, how quickly it's falling. And this is falling relatively quickly, so I'd say it's probably in the range of a half to maybe 3/4 ounces out on weight. So what I'm going to do, of course I don't have any black wheel weights, I'm very limited, so I'm hoping, since I only have a ½ ounce of black wheel weights here, that it's only a ½ ounce out. Now it falls to the heavy spot. What that means is we need to put the weight on the opposite side to counter the heavy spot. So it's basically like saying it's ½ an ounce heavy down here, so we have to equal that out by putting a ½ an ounce at the top of the wheel, and that should offset the weight, hopefully. So right down here at the bottom, roughly, is the heavy spot. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up here to top of the wheel. I'm going to put 1/2 ounce of sticky weights on the top side of the wheel. And one thing people want to do with these is they want to put ceramic balancing beads in. If you've never heard of balancing beads, they were heavily used in the truck driving industry. And what they do is constantly balance your wheel by using ceramic beads, because ceramics, they don't sweat, you know, they don't attract moisture, and they stay free floating inside the wheel. They don't stick together. And if you put enough of them in there, you know, I think they sell them in 1 ounce, 2 ounce, a bunch of different weights. Put them in there, and they essentially do the same thing constantly. So they give you better tire wear, and they balance your wheel out as you're going. Now, I did that long explanation, and basically I'm going to tell you, don't put ceramics in the wheel. They've not done enough testing with it, but the ceramic on the carbon fiber, that constant rubbing, ceramic's not going to wear out because it's an extremely hard material, and they're thinking that through prolonged use on these wheels, you can actually fatigue the wheels by using them. So, good old-fashioned wheel weights. Like I said, I got black ones. Hopefully, it's only 1/2 ounce, and they'll kind of be invisible on a black wheel, but we'll see. So I set it down there. Go another 1/4. Set it there. Go down to the bottom. Set it there. Now my wheel is perfectly balanced. Now, if you're thinking that this isn't a legit way to balance a wheel, when I went to MotoGP, I brought this up in other videos in the past. When I went to the MotoGP race, they had a tire machine much like the one I have, just a automated machine. You know, you had to change it that way. You weren't changing tires by hand, but when they balanced the wheel, they were using truing stands, and those guys go 200 miles an hour, and if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. I've actually used this and balanced other people's wheels, and they said it felt better after I was done using just this old-fashioned truing stand versus some of these newer machines, because the machines, they need to be calibrated every so often, whereas this, it's pretty much ready to go. This is the only thing that you're checking on that. This you're not really checking for. You don't have to recalibrate this. So my wheel's balanced. Luckily, it only took 1/2 ounce on the front. So now let's get these suckers mounted onto the bike. Well, there you have it. Wheels are installed. I did everything per manufacturer specification. Again, to tout Brock's performance, they come through clutch. I mean, they have the entire service manual for the Kawasaki H2, and specifically for the H2, H2R, as well as the H2 SX. So I was able to get torque specs, like I said, front and back wheels, how to install the front wheel and set it up properly. So these things are 100% installed and ready to go. And we'll see. I mean, like I said, I have high hopes for them, because everybody I've talked to that has installed carbon fiber wheels, they instantly notice the difference. So that's what I'm expecting to happen. Hopefully I didn't set my expectations too high, but that's for another video, guys. The rear wheel feels extremely light compared to the wheel that was on there, even with the tire, and I think it's because the tire that was on there was a 255 and the stock size is a 190/55, which is what I put back on the bike. So we've got stock size tires. It is a lot lighter on the back. The front, not so much, but again, you've got all the hardware on the front. You've got 2 discs, you know, 2 brake rotors, ABS ring. Not that that adds a lot of weight to it, but you know, every little bit adds up. So the front, you can tell it's lighter. You know, just wheel for wheel, like taking that stock wheel off and just holding 2 in your hand, you can definitely tell that you're saving some weight with this wheel. And again, it's rotational weight. which is different than just taking, let's say, 2 gallons of gas out of your gas tank, or taking even the exhaust off this bike and swapping it to a different exhaust. You know, it's a different way of losing weight on the bike. And again, that's for another video, guys. Wheels are on. I think it looks very sleeper, as well as sleeper as a supercharged motorcycle could look. If I put green wheel tape on those, I think you would have a tough time depicting these over the stock ones if you didn't know. So, kind of cool on that factor there, but yeah, we're going to have to take these things out and put them through their paces, guys. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for checking it out, guys. If you have any questions or want to leave any comments about the wheels or anything about the bike, any of the services I did, if you want to see a breakdown of what I did, just drop that in the comments below and I'll try and get a video together for you guys. But we'll see you in the next one. I'm going to go to bed because it's late, and then try and enjoy this on a ride tomorrow.